Alright, this is part 2 of the tuck shop quick example. What we've got running so far is the loads the products and actually literally the clients loaded into RAM. We've got the facility already for clients and to load the sales of clients, but not retrieve it yet. So let's just get that part working. So we're going to do it now. So when you enter the client's information, it will then load that client into here. So the first thing we're going to have to do is we have to create a method inside our tuck shop manager to load the clients. So we're going to create we actually already got a method somewhere up here called load client. I'm pretty sure we created that. Private client logged on. Okay, so that's going to receive the client's ID and it's then going to send that through to a new client over here, and that will work. Okay, so we actually already got the method to load the clients. What we don't have is to retrieve the client's sales. So we're going from an array of client sales. Hey, we've coded that as well. We populated the array of our client sales from there, so that's perfect. That was done in the last one. What we're going to do here is we're now going to have to get the array of sales as a single or as a detailed string. So if you take a look at our sales, we take our sale class. Let's open up our sale class quickly. You'll see that like I asked you guys to do in your earlier phase, you would always create a logical two-string, one that looks nice. So SID, product, and quantity. If you want, we could actually get rid of the ID here because we don't actually need it in any form over here. So we'll just say the product and the quantity that we bought with that product. We could technically look up the cost of that or anything like that, but that's would be part of you guys could figure that out yourselves. Anyway, what we're going to do here is we are now going to take that array of sales and we're going to return a string of them. So we're going to go public string array get sales, and this is just going to return a string of the sales, two strings of the sales. So we're going to go string array s is equal to new string array size num sales, and we're then going to return s. We are then going to create a loop. We will loop up until num sales, so like we do with any other two strings that we would normally do, or any other two string we would use. And here we're just going to say s position I is equal to sales position I dot two string. Okay, so we're just getting the two string from each position in the sales, adding it to s, and we're returning that. There's a red underline, is already defined. Hey, look at that. Probably because that just returns sales. Yeah, we don't want that. Okay. But we don't need that. Okay, so literally this method's going to just return a string array of the sales. Not actually the sales, but the string of the what is represented by it. So all we're going to do is inside our tuck shop manager now, when the client's loaded, we also need to create a public string array get clients sales, and this would then just return clients dot get sales semicolon. And then inside our user interface side, when we want to load our client here, so in other words, once we populate this, the ID has been entered. If that ID exists, we would want to load the sales. So we're wanting to create an event on here. So first I'm just going to create the method, and then I'll work from the event afterwards. Because remember, I want you to code all your methods here. You shouldn't be coding any of your methods underneath the generated code or inside the generated action element or action event. So we're going to go private void get sales, and we're going to then go and say very similar to the list products here, we're going to just go to here, look for our list client sales. We're going to copy that across into here, but now the difference is instead of we're going to say tuck shop dot load clients dot client logged in, and we're going to get that from our numerical value here. Now, one of the things that was stipulated in your guys' mark sheet is that there's marks given for error input. So in other words, for you handling the input that the user gets. So we're wanting to limit this. We could have done it through user interface, but because this is a scanner which should scan from a card input, one, we should make this default, so it would automatically select this. Default selected, which I can't remember where it is, but there's a property somewhere in here that allows you to make this the default focused cycle route. Yes, I think that might be it, but I can't remember. Yeah, so you would find something here that would make it sure that this one was the one that was first focused on, and you would get the user to input in there, and you'd use this as the scanner would input in here. But what if the user typed in something who actually bumped a key and it went through and it was not a new number? Part of your marks is that you handle events like this. So in this case, from this text field, I need to convert it to an integer. So what I would suggest you do is you come up with a method here. So I'm actually going to enclose this whole thing inside a try catch. And in this try catch, you're going to handle an exception. Now the exception could be anything, EX. And I'm literally not even going to bother about doing anything with the exception. It's just the fact that it's incorrect entry. So we've got a try catch here. And the first thing I'm going to do with the try catch is I'm going to so only when the user inputs something correct will it actually load through here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have to check if there is actually that client in the database. So I'm going to create a if statement. I'm going to say if open brackets client if. Okay, let's first go and int c underscore id. So the client id is equal to txt integer dot parsent, and we're going to go txt. No, I didn't label my field, silly me. This should be called txt client id, and inside there we're just going to go if txt client id dot get text. So now if this doesn't work, if it doesn't convert to an integer, it will throw an error and it just won't load anything, which is fine, which is what we want. The next thing, what if the if there is no client like that, the number that has just been typed in doesn't exist, there is no person like that in the database. We need to have something that checks if there is a result. So inside my tuckshop manager, I'm going to create a method called public boolean is a client, and inside there we're going to receive a int c underscore id, so the client's id, and we're going to return true or false if there is a client or not. So what I do is I'm going to say result set. First let's come up with my SQL statement. String SQL is equal to select whatever from client where c underscore id is equal to plus cid. So in other words, if the client actually exists, there will be something that's returned. So result set result is equal to dbman.query, and we'll query that SQL statement, and all we do is we go if result.next. In other words, if there is actually, if that statement returns a record, then it exists. So if result.next return true, else. In other words, there is no other record, so there is no record of that name, return false. Okay, so now on our user interface side, unreported exception. Okay, so we've got an exception that's being thrown here, so we need to surround the block with a try catch statement. Actually, because we've got a try catch later on, I'm just going to throw it from here. So I'm going to throw it from here again, where we call it. When we're going to call it from inside our UE here. So all we're going to do is we're going to say if tuck shop dot is client CID. If there is a client, then. Now I'm going to do this slightly differently. I'm going to say if there is, if it's not. So in other words, the client, it is not a client, then I'm going to throw exception. And what I can do here is I can actually go throw a new exception, and I'm going to throw exception saying no client. Okay, so there's no client to their name, and it will be caught here. Again, we're not doing anything, so if it doesn't load the client, it just won't display any information, so it's fine. But if it is a correct client, we now want to log on that client. So we're wanting to send through that client's ID that we received. and that would then load it into it. Now over here, all we're going to do is the exact same thing as we did earlier. So just to repeat this logic, I've just got to pause, I'll be back now. Okay, so I've got an array of strings here. Now instead of getting it from there, we're just going to use the dot get client sales, and that will return the array of strings. That will populate the client list. So when you log on the client list, just give me a second. Okay, so now when you log this get sales will allow you to get the sales of that client who has been logged in. On the same sense, this method we might actually want to call load client. That might actually make more sense. So I'm going to call it load client. We also actually want to get the details of that client through as well. Now because this here Tuckshop is clients, we need to log on the clients. We will now need to update the name. So txt, not client's ID. We would want lbl client name dot set text to be Tuckshop. We now need a method to get the name of the client. So in our Tuckshop manager, we would create a public string get client name. There's only one client who logs on, so we can just literally then go client dot return client dot get name, and that would return the client's name. Then inside my user interface, just hold on, we've loaded the clients on, we've now got the get, so we now need to make our lbl client name to dot set text set text to be Tuckshop dot get client name. The next thing we would want is we would want to get the balance. So again, inside our Tuck manager class, we're going to create a public int get client balance. Yes, I know that this is ing, and I now don't currently have so now that this recording has occurred, what was it doing? So get balance will then return client dot get balance, and that will return the balance to the clients, semicolon. We now need to go into our user interface, and we'll do the same thing. So you check, all that you're doing is you get stuff from a database into your arrays, you then just work with array manipulation from there, and that makes it easy enough. The next thing that we've got to do is actually update that. So label balance dot set text to be I think I actually put the whole label that, so balance for colon r space plus Tuckshop dot get balance get client balance, and that would then display it the way I wanted to, and that's done. That's for the load clients. But we now need to actually get that to happen at a certain event. So we go events on here. We can go key pressed or key typed. That's if we work with that. I mean, potentially, I think that's probably the best bet. Key typed, and then here we would run the. Let's minimize these. Here we would run the load client method. Okay, so let's test if this works. So we've now got the loading of the clients. I press play. You'll see it'll start off. I would now probably just delete the elements that were in here. Excuse me for a second. Okay, so what I would have done is remove the clients arrays here from item 1, because that makes it look horrible. But you'll check if I press A, nothing happens, but if I press 1, it should technically load it. Okay, so now we've got an error handle, which is fine. I'm glad that we have the error handle, it will make sense. 1 doesn't work. Now the first question that we've got to ask is, does the actual action element actually send through a request? So does the action element work? So I'm going to now literally create here a site, and I'm going to say there txt client typed. So we're going to check if my action element was correct. I'm going to quickly now also just get rid of these list items by going up to the model here and deleting all these items, so that can help us. And I'm going to check that inside here whether or not my Tuckshop.get sales is running. So in my exception, I'm also now going to add just an error message to the programmer, not to the actual user, because I don't want that to the user. Just give me a second while you won't notice this, I suppose. I printed to the program here. I'm not going to display it to the user because the user, I didn't want that. But let's just now press play. Let's see what happens. Hopefully we can now locate the error a bit better. So I press play. I would now have here, maximize it. If I type in 1, nothing happens. So let's just take a look. If I look here, it says number format exception for string that. So even the number, okay, that was earlier that it threw the error 2. Aha. Okay, so product plus F key not found. SQL exception column product plus underscore FK. So here's the error message. It's obviously I've got an SQL exception now, so it's something to do with the loading of the client. So let's click on the client side, result.product plus FK. Okay, there was a random plus there. That would explain a few things. So it's always a good idea to display error message. So let's try that again. Let's exit this and let's press play. Let's see if that works. So error handling, I'm recording this error handling because I want you to notice that no matter how often you've been coding, there'll always often be errors, and you've got to learn how to problem solve those errors. Why is it not now? Oh, there we go. Okay, that worked, but it didn't work the first time I loaded it. Text clients type 2. Okay, so client 2, client 1, client 2, client 1. Okay, so it works. So Tom, Dick, Tom. Client 3 is not Tom. Client 3 is Harry. But that's weird that sometimes it sends through the incorrect value. I would look at what actual elements, and perhaps it might be better to add a button here because this action listener doesn't seem to work so well. Like here I pressed 1, but it hasn't yet received 1. 1. Yeah, okay, I would add a button here because it doesn't look like it's working well with that action listener. So I'd potentially either need to look for a better action listener for that element. So in here I could look at what other events might work a bit better. For example, key released or key pressed might actually work. Type maybe probably means up and down. Let's try key released. Let's try that. That would improve it. Anyway, the point being is that you get the idea. It loads the client, you would here fidget around, you would see if you can get that system to work a bit better. The next part of this, that we're going to have to do is we're going to have to do the by statement, which will actually add a record to the database. Just give me a second. Okay, so if you look now, the action element seems a bit better. As soon as I press the button, it loads it. So if I go 1, 2, 3, 1, well, you see it doesn't work, so 1 was incorrect. 1 is now 2. Cool. Okay, so the loading is working as soon as I get the clients in. Now I want the ability to be able to, okay, so when I select the product, I want to load that product into here. So that's the next step. And then I want to do the by. Okay, so the next step with the selecting the product, we're just going to get that from the array. So I'm going to go to my user interface design, and the events is going to be here on list selection value changed. In other words, the selection has changed. And here we are then wanting to load information of that specific client. Load that product. So load product. I'm going to create a method called that. I haven't created it yet, but that's what I'm going to call it. So private void load product. And inside that we're just going to then go and we're going to search for that product. Remember, in my Tuckshop manager I already created something to do that. So I've got created product t is equal to tuckshop.get product, and we would send through lst clients product.get selected value plus inverted commas, and that will convert it to a string and it will send through the product that's been selected. I then want my LBL product name dot set text to be t.get name. I then want my LBL product price dot set text to be t.get price. I then want my LBL product stock. So you see, once if you create things correctly, it makes we ask you to create setters and getters for good reasons. It makes your life much easier. So stock, and these are giving you errors because they're an integer data type. We need to convert them to a string. Remember, you plus inverted commas to convert to a string. And the next statement is going to be so the load product would work now. So again, you test if it does work. So if I click Coke bar 1, it goes bar 1, price 10, stock 140, Coke, same thing, bar 1. So that's working, yeah. Okay, so the next statement is we want to get this bar working. So if I say I want to buy 2, if I say client 1 wants to buy 2 and I click buy, it should add it to here and it should add it to the database as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to create the methods we need. So firstly, in our client method, we're going to need to create a, give me a second. Okay, what we're going to need is we're going to create the add method here. So we're going to go public void add sale. And this sale is going to be added to the database as well as to the this array. So first thing I want to do is in here we're going to have to receive through the product that is being bought, and we're going to have to receive through the quantity that is going to be bought. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to create the SQL statement to add it. So my SQL statement would be insert into sale table, and the fields in my sale table are we have this in that Excel spreadsheet, so I'm just going to open up that so I can see what it is. The sale is SID is automatic ID, so we don't need that. We have clients underscore FK, we have product underscore FK, we have a quantity, and the values that we have for these. Now this is where it gets a little bit confusing, and the reason why it can get confusing with the values, clients underscore FK is referring to an integer, so that's fine. We just add the client's FK, which is under this class, it's CID, and that's the client's ID. The next thing we'll need to do is we'll need to add the product FK, which is text, which means it would have, we open up the text bracket, this will close the Java string. We would then need to add the actual product. Again, we open up a Java string, close the SQL string, comma. The next thing we need is the quantity, which is a number, so we don't need to put a single inverted comma because this is the SQL, closing the SQL string. Now we're closing our Java string. Just identify the difference. SQL string, Java string. It can get quite confusing, but if you look at it, you'll understand why. So then that's been sent through the values that need to be sent through, and that is the SQL statement that will allow it to add it to the database. Now the big thing here is you need to know the unique identifier of it. Just give me a second. So that would allow you to insert. Now one of the big important things here is we would obviously also want to, after we actually do the insert, we would want to create a new instance of clients. So we would want to add, we want a new instance of sales into this array. Now here you'll see that I require the sales ID, the quantity, the product, but our sales ID is an automatically generated number. So when I go dbman dot update and I can run this SQL statement, I actually want to run update return the ID. So it'll return the ID of that sale that has been added. So then I'll go int s underscore ID is equal to that. So this will add it to the database and then return the ID that's happening there. So now when I go add sales, I can just send through the product and the quantity, SID, the quantity, and the product. Done. Okay, so that's sorted, and this would allow it to add it to the array and to there. So now inside my user interface side, when I want to create a method called public void add sale, or buy, if you will, whatever, it doesn't matter, buy. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to need to go tuckshop manager dot tuckshop dot add product. What did I call it? What did I create it as? I haven't. I only created it inside my client. My client created this, add sale, and inside here I would need to add a throw, or I would have to surround by a block. Okay. So remember, always print it out. Okay, so we give an error to the programmer and error to the user. And inside here, into my Tuckshop manager, I'll need to go public void add by, let's say, and inside there I would receive the integer client. Actually, no, the client selected inside here, so I would just need to receive the product, so string product, and then I would need to go client dot add sale product, or I'd also need to receive the int quantity through this, and I would need to receive the quantity here. Okay, so that's done. Now inside here I'll just go tuckshop manager dot buy, and I'll send through txt, it's lbl client, no, product name dot get text, and I'll then need to send through the spinner, which I haven't renamed, bad me, I changed variable name spn quantity, that would be the quantity that we want the user to buy. Again, I have not stipulated this too drastically, you guys would design your code a bit better. And I'd send through my user interface, my source code. I'll then go spin quantity dot get value, which you'll see that it returns an object. Now the reason why it returns an object is if you go to the design of your spin, you'll see there it says model, and its default model. If you change this to a number model, you can ensure you can set a minimum and a maximum. So a minimum of 0, you can set a maximum, for example, a person's only allowed to buy 10 goods or whatever you want to choose. You can then ensure that what the user puts in there is only text. So then this is another type of error handling. You've done that via code. Now .get value is an integer, so we want to convert it to an integer. We know that it's definitely an integer because it's a spin, so I can just directly cast that into an integer without any real worries about that not being an integer, because it's a spin box of the GUI error handling. So this differentiates between GUI handling and earlier in that load clients I did error handling through code. Here the actual user interface does the error handling, which is this element here does error handling for me. So that shows you both ways of error handling. So when I click the buy button, I want to run the buy method, and also after we've done the purchase, what we actually want to do is we want to update we want to load the clients again. So we want to rerun the load client method because we want to update the potentially what I would do, we would want to rerun the load client method, so that would reload the clients, update his sales, that kind of things, and his balance and whatnot. One thing we didn't do is we didn't update the balance. That would have to be a SQL statement. In other words, get the balance, you'd have to update. That would be an update statement. You just run that through there. I don't think you need to see that right now, because literally that would just be an update balance SQL statement, and you run through the SQL. So if I'm going to say bar 1, I'm going to choose client number 2. He's already bought bar 1, let's choose client number 1. Well, actually client number 3 hasn't got anything. Okay, so he's going to buy 2 bacon rolls. You see there, bacon rolls times 2 has been added to the array. The next time I close this and I open it again, you'll see that when I click on client 3, bacon rolls 2. So it has been stored now. We have all the information. Here's a basic user interface. I've got inserts, I've got my select that reads it into an array. It's a well-designed program in an hour and a half of coding. Yeah, bye.